All right, guys, we are live. UFC Seattle just went down. It was an absolute banging card, and to the very end, we'll get to that. This is the most in-depth recap show in the world. This is the Shillan and Duffy recap show, brought to you by sherdog.com. I'm your host. My name is Keith Shillan. Coming back after the big breakup, he has returned. He is Ben Duffy. Ben, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing well. Had a good week off, like actually unplugged for a week and didn't think about fights. I'm raring to go. And through about 2/3 of this card, I was reminded of why I love this sport in the first place. And I'm so happy to work in the space professionally. And then the main card happened.
Yeah. Ben is so hip that he knew a card was in Seattle, so he had to go unplugged. An old Nirvana reference for you guys. We had 12 fights. The main event was a fight between Henry Cejudo versus Song Yadong. So I always talk about you talked about the things you love about MMA, then the things we hate about MMA. One thing I hate about MMA is the rules, the trickiness of the rules. Nobody really knows any of the rules. Whereas obviously as hardcore as it comes. Explain to me the rule. When does it go?
Here. Very, very simple. Well, I shouldn't say very simple about MMA rules ever, but yes, everyone in the chat seems to be sussing it out correctly.
Okay.
If like Cejudo by the last 10 seconds of that round, and as he walked to his corner was saying, I can't see out of my left eye.
Okay.
If the fight had been stopped before the end of the third round, it would have been a no contest. Because it went to the end of the third round, it goes to a technical decision. Like that's as simple as I can understand like people being frustrated. Like obviously, like this is a super blue balls fight because even if I thought Song was winning, Cejudo was pulling off a couple moments per round that made me go, oh shit, he's going to turn this around. And instead we get it interrupted, 3/5 of the way through. I understand the frustration, but place your frustration properly. Okay. So Herzog did everything perfectly.
Okay, we'll get to that in a second. I just want to make sure I understand. So, if the fight was stopped when Cejudo said he couldn't see, and that goes to a no contest, or maybe even a disqualification if Herzog says it's intentional, because Cejudo continued, and if Cejudo started fighting, just say hypothetically, there was probably I think there was like a little bit over a minute left. He starts fighting again. He starts holding it. I say, I can't say they stopped the fight. What happens then? Is that a TKO?
If he starts fighting again after the injury and then decides, that's going to be at the ref's discretion, but I'm betting that goes down as a TKO.
Okay. And then because of the round ended, they go to the scorecards?
Yes.
Okay.
It would have been if the second round had ended in a 3-round fight, if the third round ends in a 5-round fight, then you have enough that it's going to be a technical decision.
All right. I think it's wrong. And I'll tell you why. To me, you got poked in the eye. Yes. Then you said that you were good and you continued. To me, that doesn't matter anymore. To me, like you just told me that if he fought 10 seconds later and they stopped the fight, it's a TKO. Why is it any different? Why is it going to scorecards when he made it to the end of the third round, the fourth round's about to start. He can't continue. To me, that's no different than a guy quitting on the stool.
Okay, now that is worth looking at. Because they fought for like over another minute, I think if Herzog is called on to justify it, he's going to point out that once they started fighting again, you can no longer guarantee that the poke in the eye is the reason he couldn't see anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. So why are you going to the scorecards? Song Yadong threw about 30 more punches in the last minute and a half. How do we know not one of those punches is why Cejudo can't see anymore? No, it's most likely was the eye poke. I understand that. Yeah. But you can't like imagine another sport where you're playing a baseball game and you play 6 innings, you're gonna start the 7th inning, and they're like, and one team scores a run, like, yeah, no, we gotta rewind and go back to this point and stop the match or stop the game or stop whatever at this point. I think Justine Herzog was absolutely horrendous tonight. I think it was one of the worst refereeing I've ever seen. And I understand, like, somebody be like, dude, Keith, you don't even know the rules. You know what? Neither did Jason Herzog, because he was saying they had to start the fourth round, and then someone from the outside told him they didn't have to start the fourth round. The commentators didn't know the rules because every freaking state, every area has different rules, and it's super confusing. They change every couple of years. My thing is, here's the other thing: say you have to start the fourth round for it to go to a judge's decision. You have a fighter saying he can't see, and you're going to have this like, okay, we're going to start the fight and go 1 second into the round so we can stop it again so we can go to scorecards. Like, you as a judge is bending the rule. I mean, you as a ref is bending the rules to get to the outcome that you want. I mean, that's like some freaking Kansas City Chiefs type freaking refereeing going on. Like, what are we talking about? You know, a fighter can't continue, and you're going to start a round and stop it immediately, just to say we can get.
And you may be right that he like started the fourth round so that it wasn't a TKO. Because if he stops it in between rounds at that point, I think it does go down as a TKO.
Okay, and because the fourth round, so did he ever start the actual fourth round?
I'm looking here. Let's see.
Obviously, we're recording this right afterwards. Yeah. I'm sure Mark Ratner will probably clear this up. But
and Ratner was talking like as the fight ended. I mean, if Herzog started the fourth round officially, which he did, then the judges needed to turn in scorecards for that round. Obviously, they're all going to turn in 10-10s.
So nobody did. So it was only 3 rounds.
Yeah, this is probably going to end up getting examined afterwards. Like,
it should. This is fucked up, man. So I'll say this, and a lot of people saying that Cejudo was kind of gaming the system a little bit, and I truly believe that he couldn't see out of that left eye because the way he fought the last minute and change of that round, he really was clearly running away from him. Then he immediately goes to his corner and says, I can't see. Everything's a blur. Was he gaming the system trying to get to 5 minutes? Yeah, of course he was. That's smart. I mean, I don't blame for that.
No, but he shouldn't have to explain why he wants 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's part of the rules. Like,
sit down and suck up those boos. Yeah.
But in the long run, by Cejudo trying to tough it out, he screwed himself.
Yeah, he kind of did. If he just gone, I can't see, then it goes down as a no contest. The UFC
or disqualification,
or disqualification. But I'm trying to think of a time that they would have called I'm trying to think of a time that they called a DQ in a situation like that when they did not deduct a point at the time of the actual foul.
Yeah. But we didn't know. Yeah, if he continues, if he doesn't continue, do they try to take a point? Who knows? But yeah, Cejudo at the end screwed himself, which kind of looks bad. It's just one of these things that's wrong with the sport. And when you think about the level of, like, as much as we complain about NFL refereeing, their level of professionalism and baseball and basketball and at all the sports, I'm sure soccer is the same way. Their level of professionalism is 100 times better than MMA. We have Mark Ratner on the outside, one guy understanding what's going on. The NFL will go to the booth and there'll be people in New York City. There's a whole bunch of officials. You have someone on TV explaining the rules immediately to, Troy Aikman, and somebody will go to all right, Steve, tell us what happens here. And then he'll explain it from his refereeing. We have no idea what's going on. We have Herzog saying start the fourth. We have this guy saying this. We're rewinding, basically eliminating a minute and a half that happened. Like, what a freaking disaster this sport is. And it was such a good night. Before that, it was like I was ready to nominate for event of the year.
Yeah, it like through, the first 8 fights or so, it was card of the year material.
Yeah, yeah. So let's actually talk about the action we saw. So well, let's go off of there. I had a weird when I was typing out my score. I'm like, I don't even know if this is correct, but I sent my score in. How did you score the fight?
I gave Song the first and third rounds. I gave Cejudo the second.
Okay, all right. So I had a 3-0 Song, but I'm okay with that scorecard. I mean, clearly the third round was obviously the most decisive round.
Yeah.
What did you like about what Song Yadong did tonight?
Not much. Here's the thing. In the Sherdog editorial Slack in the scoring channel, like Dev actually kind of said as the fight started, I have no idea how this fight's going to turn out. Usually I have a kind of a picture of what's likely. I don't know in this fight, and I just kind of threw out half as a joke. Song wins in kind of an uninspired decision. Little did I know, but yeah, Song won, and you can make the argument that he won all 3 rounds, but nothing out of it really made me think that he's any more ready for top 5 opposition than I thought a day ago or a year ago. Like Song, he's still in his 20s, but the cement is starting to harden. He is looking like a gatekeeper to the top 8 or so.
Sure.
And even though Song won at least 2 rounds, you can make the argument that he won 3. I found more to be impressed with out of Cejudo's performance. Like, I don't think he's going to, because I think if Cejudo doesn't have a straight path to a title shot, his interest in fighting at this age is going to wane really quickly. Like, I don't think he's fighting Song again next. And if they try to make him, I think he might just walk away. Like, he's walked away when he was at the pinnacle of the sport.
Yeah,
his ass is going to walk away again. But like, I found things.
Yeah,
to
but
be
he got a
impressive.
girlfriend.
Like,
he got a girl. He had to retire. He got a girlfriend.
Then why does he still act this way?
I don't know. That's what they said. That's what it was. Like, oh, I got a girlfriend now or some shit. I don't know. When he retired years ago. So as you're much harsher on Song's performance than me. There's some things I did like. One thing, he's only 27, so I never write someone off that's that young. 27, he's got a lot of experience, a lot of high level experience. UFC. I don't know how many main events he's been in now, but really good to be in the, guy like Henry Cejudo, fighting Henry Cejudo and different things. So I like that. Some things I liked. I liked that he was jabbing the body. I thought that was really good. Kicking the legs, which is really going to, limit Cejudo's mobility, who doesn't move like he did when he was a flyweight anyways, but also slow down his entries, take away some of his power. I like that he was able to keep the fight in his range. He was clearly the faster striker. He's more accurate at this point of his career. What I didn't like in him, I thought he should have pushed the pace a little bit more. Like, you're the younger fighter. Obviously, durability starts to wane as you get older. Cardio becomes much harder as you get older. I thought the rounds were closer than they should have been if he pressed the action more. He was fighting off his back foot a lot. Countering way too much, never really leading the dance, kind of catching Cejudo as he was coming in, but the optics never looked good. Now, I still had him up 3 rounds to nothing, but it felt like to me like someone who's like keeping someone in the game, someone who's kind of like they could open it up now, but like a high school basketball player playing against a junior high basketball player, and he's shooting just with his left hand to kind of work on his game and kind of keep it around. Or my son wrestles with a kid who's like nationally ranked. He's a couple years older than him. He's absolutely incredible, and the kid will purposely put himself in bad positions so my son's beating him, and then he works out of it, and it's like it's hard to adjust how good assess how good my son is because I know the kid's working with him.
Sure.
That's what I felt like. I felt like Sung was almost working with Cejudo. That if he put it on, he could have put him out.
Yeah, and this is not the first time that Song has either lost a fight or left a fight closer than it needed to be because he kind of gets stuck in that second gear. Yeah, I mean, Dev makes a good point. Plenty of blame being thrown around here, yet none for the guy that managed like a Three Stooges style double eye poke which is what actually started the fight rolling downhill.
Yeah, and he gets the win for it, which is
Gets the win for it. Oh, and by the way, he kicked him in the nuts like a minute before that. Yeah,
yeah, well, yeah, and that was I think it was wasn't that the second one because didn't Cejudo was it when did Cejudo start like adjusting his cup? Was that the same round or was that earlier?
no, the same round.
Same round. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is uh yeah, not really good. Let's talk about Cejudo. So what he to me he's really lost it. He's not half the fighter that he used to be. But because of his level of athleticism and because of his natural intelligence, he still can be competitive with the top guys. I mean, he definitely has still some speed there. He's not the hand speed that he had when he was fighting at flyweight or anything. He's definitely has some old man strength in it. So I think he could still beat 95% of the bantamweights on the UFC roster. The big thing, and I think this is what's gonna really start to show a decline in him if he continues to fight, is it's not that he can't wrestle anymore because yeah, he could still probably out wrestle many guys, but he's not a shell of the wrestler he once was. But it's not that he can't wrestle, it's that word's gonna start spreading that he can't wrestle. And that's going to keep him from being able to land the shots and the different things he get away with when they were worried about the takedowns.
And here's the weird thing, like the UFC booth was talking about this, like how Song better be working on his takedown defense. Like Cejudo hasn't really gone all in on his offensive wrestling since, like, how many times has he really put on a wrestling heavy performance since coming back in, like, you know, from his, because here's the thing. And granted, a couple of his last few fights were against people that wanted it on the ground even more than he did, like, you know, Aljo and
yes,
Rob.
That's right.
But even before that, like, his most recent fight against a guy that didn't want to be on the ground was probably God, was it the Moraes fight?
Yeah.
And he went like 1 for 5 on takedowns against him. Like, it's over. I hate saying overrated, but certainly his wrestling threat is overstated. If you take the last 4 or 5 years as the example, like I think of him as kind of a classic case of strikeritis, where he's like, I can wrestle, and I just want to keep the threat out there enough that I can get people's hands down and clock them because I have real good power.
Yeah, I think he's basically like what we saw in another fight tonight. He's Ricky Simone at this level with wrestling. Yeah, he can still take guys down, but it's the one. He's not this elite level wrestler that he used to be. So it's one, not Kenny can still wrestle at that level, but two, can he sustain that wrestling for 25 minutes? Can he, you know, that's an even bigger part. Like he can have moments of exploding and and driving through the hips or get to an underhook and hitting that beautiful like inside trip he does. But can he do that for 25 minutes? And I don't think he has the gas tank. I don't think he has the durability to do it anymore, the mindset. I mean, people will say, oh, he won the, dude, what are you talking about? He won the Olympics. He won the Olympics when he was 21 years old. He's 38. Like it was 2008 when he won the Olympics. I had to look it up. When he won the Summer Olympics, that's when Forrest Griffin won the freaking light heavyweight title. Forrest Griffin has been retired for 13 years.
Forrest Griffin been selling me Toyo tires for like a decade and a half at this point.
That's right.
Like,
that's right.
Now, like the real crazy thing is never mind. All right.
No, I would still rank his wrestling very high in the division compared to others, but it's not the top anymore.
No.
This isn't freaking Spencer Lee going out there, guys.
No. Nope.
I know people have heard me talk about this so many times, so I don't want to go too far. Let's talk about Cejudo. Before we do matchmaking, Song Yadong said, let's run it back. They asked Cejudo about it. He didn't.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, he gave one of those, but if I don't think there's going to be good taste in anybody's mouth anyways, based on this. But this wasn't the best matchup for him anyways. This wasn't the matchup to make anyways.
No. And usually I don't believe anything the UFC booth tells me about behind the scenes negotiations. But when they said Cejudo just called up Hunter Campbell and was like, give me some up and comer that, you know, nobody wants to fight. Like, I can believe that this is where it came from because, Song Yadong, he's not he's not a young prospect anymore. Like he's young, but he's been around forever. Like I said, it feels like he's kind of settling into what he is, unless he does a Charles Oliveira, Robbie Lawler type, age 32 reinvention of himself.
Sure.
And when you said let's talk about matchmaking after this. So obviously before the fight went into the toilet, I had some ideas lined up, and both the names I had for Cejudo, win or lose, are much bigger names than Song, and I don't want them to run this fight back. If he's going to go on, I would rather him fight one of the two people that I put down on my little notes.
Yeah. So the UFC. If anybody's watching this for the first time, the way we do it, we don't predict what the UFC is going to do. We more say, if we're the supreme rule in the world, nobody can say no. Everybody has to say yes. What are we doing? I had the same name no matter what, win or lose for Cejudo. I'll put him against Jose Aldo. I
came up with two other kind of legendary type names, and I missed that one. I'd be A-okay with that. What I had was, if he wins, give him Sean O'Malley. If he loses, give him Cody Garbrandt.
Okay. I don't hate any of those, especially the Garbrandt one.
Well, because the thing is,
O'Malley, I don't know if O'Malley wants that fight.
I don't know if O'Malley wants it. Like,
he wins.
If O'Malley's smart, he wants that fight, because he's like, I don't think Cejudo can really take me down, at least maybe not past the first 7 or 8 minutes of the fight, and I will piece his ass up as he gets tired. Like, if O'Malley's smart, he takes that, because right now O'Malley needs matchups that are marketable enough for the UFC to give them proper card placements and can make people forget what the Merab fight looked like.
Yeah. So the Cejudo thing to me is, it's all risk, no reward. Like, I feel like he beats Cejudo, everyone's gonna say, like, yeah, dude, you knocked out a 38 at that time, probably 39-year-old guy that like hasn't won in 5 years, 7 years, something like that. But I mean, I understand the logic. The Cody Garbrandt one makes a lot of sense, because two former champions and two kind of they'd have some pretty funny things say to each other at like a press conference.
And fairness to him, Garbrandt looked pretty good in winning his last fight. I thought he was washed, and it's like, okay, kind of like I said about Cejudo tonight. He may not be a champ again, but he looks like a guy that could stick around and be competitive with decent fighters in this division.
Yeah. I like the Aldo fight because, I mean, Jose Aldo has got to the point where no matter how many wins or losses he was the B-side in one of the biggest rivalries in the history of MMA, and that obviously carries over, the Conor McGregor stuff. Obviously, he was a long-reigning champion. Some would argue the greatest featherweight ever. Some would argue top 10 fighter, some might even throw a top 5 fighter ever. That's the fight I would do. I wouldn't use Cejudo's name to get over anybody else at this point. There's really 2 avenues you can do with a guy. It's either use a guy, get over the next generation, or you put him in like a legendary fight. Usually I do the opposite. Usually if there's a rising prospect, I try to get them over. But every once in a while I'll do the legendary fight. Throw it in Brazil somewhere. Cejudo say some crazy shit in front of a Brazilian crowd, and and Aldo just being classy and has a crowd on his side. That's what I would do. I would treat Yadong like you won. It wasn't the best performance. He's still 27. You're not going to like the matchup I'm giving him. And this was simply when I was just looking through the rankings and seeing who's available and who hasn't even fought. Because he's fought a lot of guys.
Nobody's going to like what I have for him either, so hit me.
Okay. He's fought a lot of guys. So there isn't many people above him or around his range that he hasn't already fought. I'm giving him Umar.
I'm A-okay with that. Because for me, with Song, he's only lost 2 fights in the last couple of years, and they were both to top 10, if not top 5 guys. Like, he is firmly what he is. Like I say, he'll probably spend another 10 years in that 7 to 12 range. It's, to me, his visibility is above his performance. Like, I think at this means he's won like 5 of his last 7 or something like that. This division has Mario Bautista on a 6-fight win streak. Montel Jackson and Eamon Zahabi are on 5. Vinicius Oliveira and Marcus McGee are on 4. Like, it's not about what Song deserves anymore. There's like a traffic jam of guys on great winning streaks that aren't as close to the title picture as him just because he's visible, he's memorable, he's been around longer. I make him fight someone like Mario Batista or Montel Jackson.
Yeah, okay. I'm okay with that. Like, you're either fighting someone above you or someone below you. So,
Yeah. Umar would be fine too.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously a much higher profile fight. So let's move on. The fight that, if you watched the preview show, I said should have been the main event, and I feel even more passionate based on how it ended too. Honestly, how both fights ended. It seemed like Brendan Allen and Anthony Hernandez was just starting to warm up. Their second fight, and now Anthony Hernandez, our guy, is 2-0 against Brendan Allen, winning unanimous decision. I mean, I'm gonna say, Ben, we got screwed out of 2 rounds.
We completely did. They fought once already, and that one was 5 rounds. Like, and to hear Anthony Hernandez talking in the lead up to the fight, like, obviously he's just saying whatever so that they'll let him get off the soundstage and stop answering questions. He's saying whatever Art of War stuff he thinks might get him a certain result with Allen. But when he said, "I'm glad that it's only 3 rounds because I don't have to worry about getting tired," have you ever watched one of your own fights? Because you might be the guy north of 155 pounds in the entire UFC that needs to be worried least about getting tired.
Yeah.
It's kind of the opposite of what you do. And you're fighting someone in Allen who's extremely talented and dangerous, but prone to mistakes and with durability issues. A longer fight favors you in every conceivable way. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah, this needed to be a 5-round fight.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great fight. I'll talk about. I'm in on Anthony Hernandez. I said it. This was I said on the previous show. This was my most confident pick for not going with someone who. When I say my most confident pick, I'm not talking about someone who's a negative 800 favorite or something like that. Like, I want to see something like that somewhat within, under negative 300. I'd say I think is fair. After the first round, I was like, oh shit. And then I realized, I go, oh no. Anthony Hernandez is going to do his thing. And he did. And then I started realizing something. Anthony Hernandez might be the American version of Dracus du Plessis.
Oh, I like that. Like, he's a little bit more of like an actual technical grappler.
Sure.
But aside from that, just it works is the best thing you can say about his game. Yeah, like what a gem this guy is. He's great to have in the division, and regardless of what he said in the lead up to this fight, like, this is a guy built for 5-round fights. Like, after Merab and Bilal, he might be the guy most made for 5-round fights in the entire UFC.
Yeah, now he always is going to have a lack of athleticism thing going against some probably a little better athlete than he gets credit for, but he's going to be a guy that you better get him out of there, because every minute that goes on, he's going to start doing his thing. I'm watching this fight, and the difference was there was so many moments, and the way I kind of give you an idea how I do my notes. I kind of leave sections. I have like a big section for the main event, and I kind of, depending on the card, I give bigger sections for co-main events and that. But I kind of, like prelims, I'll take a third of the page, just kind of scattered notes. I left an area, I give about a half a page for this fight. And then I was just sitting there and I'm writing little things down, and I'm like, I wish I gave him a whole page because there was so many little moments that Hernandez won that I was just like, many people are not going to catch little things he did. But there was a moment when he was about to lose his position, and it was about 2 minutes left in the second. And I'm like, if he loses that, he's going to be down 2-0. Allen's going to get on top. He's going to start banging him. He's losing the position. And then he hip heists and he wins the scramble, and he still ends up back on top. He's lacing his legs in. He's controlling the posts when Allen's starting to get up. Kneeing him in the legs, just little things he was doing that had me like believe in him. And then he's just so mentally strong. Think about this. It's 1-1. You ended let me back up. You end the first round beat up, almost caught a submission a couple of times, got elbows dropped in your face. Then you come out after basically almost getting finished in the first to win almost every moment of the second period. Oh, sorry, I'm running wrestling too much. The second round. You'll win almost every second of the second round after you would just almost finish. Who else does that? Not many. And then the third comes out. It's 1-1. You land a punch that Allen comes back and holds his eye for a second, and it was actually a punch that was stopped for an eye poke.
Yep.
They restarted anyways. Then you get punched in the face. It looks like it was. I'm assuming it was a punch. They never replayed it. You start holding your eye for a second. You could tell it's bothering you. It was his chance to crumble. Instead, he doesn't. Instead, he throws like a 4-punch combination, then gets a takedown and wins the rest of the round. And I'm like, dude, this freaking guy, man. This is my – if he was like a wrestling, 12-year-old kid, this is the kid I would freaking be all over. Like, I'd be like, okay, that sounds terrible. I'd be super excited about Thank you.
Praising, yes.
Yeah, like because he just has this unbelievable will in him. And I love it.
It does. It is intangible, uncoachable, and it's almost impossible to develop that kind of mentality if you don't have it already. Like I feel like I bring him up on our preview or our recap every single week, but the reason why is because Charles Oliveira is the only person I can think of in the history of the sport, like as a high-level fighter, who went from being known as a guy that crumbled when he got hurt to a guy that fought through that shit and got you back worse. Like he's the only one I can think of. Other than that, normally
I'll give you one more.
Sure.
Extremely young Robbie Lawler. When he lost to Pete Spratt and people thought he quit and everything. Mm-hmm. But like most people didn't really, that was like early leg kicks. We didn't really we saw Marco Huas do it, but like no one else really was like like to see a guy at that level, the next big prospect, lose to Pete Spratt. But that was extremely young Robbie Lawler.
But 15 years later, for that guy to just be bleeding from everything, like Doom guy with 2% of his health left, like across the cage from Rory McDonald.
His lip hanging off. Yeah. To be the complete opposite of what he is. But yeah, could continue.
I don't know what else I had to say than that, other than Hernandez. It is a good thing that he has fighting as an outlet for whatever he's got inside him that makes him this way. Because otherwise, you could just be at some random Starbucks in Eureka, California. You say something to your barista for pronouncing your name wrong, and Anthony Hernandez like snaps on you. Like, without MMA, he just looks like a very fit coffee bar guy.
He didn't even look that fit though.
No, he's definitely the greatest fighter ever to have to tape over his gauges so he doesn't get like part of his ear ripped off, like from some guy's finger going through it. Yeah, it's.
There was a moment in this fight that I was just like, if you could sum up this fight, it was in the third. It was right after Hernandez got hurt. Hernandez basically slips a punch, basically does like a duck under, gets behind Allen. He's trying to get Allen down. He's trying to like kick out his legs and everything. And Allen's starting to go down, but he's not completely down. And then all Allen does for 1 second is put his hand down to kind of rest and keep his body from his hand, when he really shouldn't have done that, because all it did was help Hernandez get him down further. And I was like, that was the difference in the fight right there. Allen took a break for a second. And you can't, not even a second can you take a break when you're fighting Anthony Hernandez.
Not even a second. One bit of fault finding I will throw in on Hernandez's performance, and it plays into what Guernica84 is saying here, and it made it a more fun fight. So I'm not complaining too hard, but both guys, like once this kind of turned into like a scramble heavy grapple fest, both guys were too willing to concede bottom position. And this fight was a bit of a showcase in why, when you're both good grapplers, it really is better to be on top.
Yeah. Like, and Hernandez. This kind of goes down to these guys who are grinders. There's certain guys that'll make up their lack of ability by just having a good IQ. And Hernandez realized that I need to be the top side grappler, and he was looking for takedowns while Allen, like the third round, is trying to strike and he was having success striking, but all Hernandez needed was one takedown.
Yep.
and he understood that. Like he got out grappled in the first, and still knew his best avenue of victory is get the fight to the ground.
Smart.
Yeah.
There's, for as much as I will criticize fighters that make no adjustments between rounds when their shit is not working, there's also something to be said for sticking with your game plan when you know it's the right game plan and it may just not have panned out for you great that round.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. It's a like a holistic view of a fight instead of like this is not working right, because so many guys will abandon their game plan right away, not realizing there is a skill to adjusting the game plan B and C and D. There's definitely this things like that, but to give up on a game plan too early and not sticking to it is obviously a bad sign too. He's on I think it's 7 fights in a row now.
7 now. Yep.
I'm giving him. He needs to be in a main event. I know he was in a main event against Michelle Pereira, but I want him to be in another main event. I'm giving him a big name, like a really big name.
So am I. What are you giving him?
I'm giving Robert Whitaker.
I'm fine with that. The name I had for him, not as big a name, but higher up the ladder right now, was Sean Strickland.
Oh, I think Strickland. No, Strickland's a bigger name than Whitaker.
Okay, in that case, I'm giving him a bigger name and someone who's probably higher in the rankings right now.
I think he is a terrible side smashing for Strickland. Strickland is super technical. Okay, he's a technical guy, but he doesn't have that dog in him. When it's getting hard, is he going to check out? That's why I want it. Whitaker has that dog in him. He's not going to check out. I love both matchups.
Man,
Hernandez would be the underdog in both of those matchups, especially a Whitaker fight. Mm-hmm. I don't count Hernandez out against anybody right now.
I don't either. And again, we're talking about Robert Whitaker, a dude who has that intangible toughness to him. But at the same time, when I see how many submission attempts both ways turned into some sort of like face crank, I'm like, I'm going to be sitting on the edge of my seat when this goes to the ground if it's Whitaker and Hernandez. You know, we're talking about Whitaker, who just got his dentition pushed in by Khamzat Chimaev. Like, is he going to panic? Is he going to make a bad mistake the first time Hernandez gets his back and is starting to wrap up that choke and it's just across the face? I'd be curious about that.
Let's talk about Chimaev for a second. Obviously, Hernandez is not fighting Chimaev, but the skill set that those two guys have. I mean, Chimaev is way more skilled than Hernandez is.
Yep, and he also has 6 minutes.
But tell me, you're heading into the third round.
If Hernandez is breathing after 6 minutes, I'm taking all that money that Harvey Weinstein has given us tonight.
Yeah,
and I'm pushing it.
If it's he's down 2 rounds, he's got absolutely trashed. First round's a 10-8 round, and he's sitting there and he's plus 2,000 at this point into the third. So I'm not a betting man, but I'm betting on him.
And here's the thing. He's won 7 fights in a row, moving up into beating top 10-ish guys convincingly. Like he handled Allen, and while none of us know for sure, I think it would have gotten worse if there'd been 2 more rounds.
Oh, totally.
He rocked Michelle Pereira, a guy that had about as much momentum as him going into their fight.
Sure.
If not for the fact that there's such a traffic jam, I'd be fine with him being on the short list for a title shot now. He's won 7 fights in a row. It's just because there's like people like Bahalio and Imavov and Chimaev waiting that we're even talking about another fight for him. Otherwise, the guy's done enough.
Yeah. Yeah, if he's in the right place, in different division, right place, right time. Usually middleweight, you wouldn't need this in longer run. I'll tell you right now, I mean, you mentioned the middleweight fight. It would be as fun of a matchup I think we'd get. I think stylistically that'd be such a fun matchup. Duplessis the guy that, and obviously when you start talking about the champion, the higher you go up, the harder it should get. Duplessis the guy that I'd be really interested to see if he could do this thing too, because Duplessis is the same guy. Yeah. He's the same guy where his neck's getting cranked. He's getting elbows in his face. He's finding a way to win the next minute, to win the next 30 seconds. That would be super fun. Before we move on, let's get to Brendan Allen. still much younger than you think for a guy who has this many fights in the UFC. What are you doing with Allen next?
What I put down for him was if he won, I was going to give him Jared Cannonier, another top 10 guy who has one win after losing his fight before that. If he lost, I was going to give him maybe the winner of Gastelum versus Pfeiffer in a couple weeks, or the loser of Vittori versus Dolidze in a couple weeks.
Yeah, I was giving him Roman Kopylov, but I love Popes. Fluffy is like Derrick Henry in the fourth quarter. That's
all of a sudden it just feels like the guy weighs 270 pounds and he's running downhill at you. Yeah, I like that.
You're containing him. He's after 3 quarters, he has 40 yards, and you're feeling so good, and then all of a sudden he just freaking breaks off an 80-yard run.
Yeah,
let's move on. Before that, Rob Font took on Gene Matsumoto. Rob Font winning by split decision. Really, really fun fight. New England has finally gotten a win. It seems like forever since they've gotten a win in the UFC. But
all I saw was Montreal's Rob Font.
Yeah, I would say he had to go out of country to get that win. When Canada came into Boston and beat the hockey team, they took Rob Font on the way out. Really fun fight. How did you score it?
I did score it for Font. I gave him
wow. Okay.
But I gave him the third round. I would be fine with the first 2 rounds both going to Matsumoto.
Yeah.
But I gave him the first, and I gave Font the first and third.
Yeah, I have to watch this fight again. I mean, again, I was in the moment. I'm sure it was really fun. MMA Decisions had it 8-4 Matsumoto. That's eight people for Matsumoto, four for Font. I was one of the people who scored it for Matsumoto. I scored it 29-28. I give Matsumoto the first and second round. Again, maybe I have to rewatch it again. I had a really hard time finding a win for Font there. I thought he clearly lost both the first and second round.
And if I rewatch it, I may end up agreeing with you. That aside, I felt like it was a stock up performance for him. Like we're not doing our Bulls and Bears yet. But here's the thing. If you told, this seems like the worst of all worlds. You're going to take a fighter who already lives and dies by his jab, and you're going to send him to TriStar to train with Faraz Sahabi, but you're going to keep Tyson Chartier as your manager. I half expected him to show up on short notice to fight Alex Pereira or something in his next.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Maybe bald Rob Font is a new thing because he looked good tonight. And his takedown defense, he is what he is. He's a kind of lanky bantamweight who is primarily a boxer. His takedown defense used to be terrible. Tonight, I thought this might be a glimpse into what decent Rob Font takedown defense could be like, because he put up enough of a fight that Matsumoto was starting to get tired from wrestling. He got him down in the first round, but he had to work for it more than he thought. He probably thought he was going to have to. Font didn't just concede the position. He was working to get up, which, again, that's work for him, but it's also work for the guy that took him down. Matsumoto was a stockier, more muscular guy. I liked what I saw out of Font. He's never going to turn into Jose Aldo or BJ Penn overnight. But if he even turns into somebody that can wear out a wrestler and then start piecing them up late, that could buy him a couple more years of relevance in this division.
Yeah, he was a lot more aggressive, which is obviously good. He's up there in age. I want to throw out a dude. Can I do a dude seriously already?
Please.
Dude, seriously, Dev. That step in elbow one Font the second round for me. That's kind of cool, dude. Seriously, he did that in the third round. What is the fuck you talking about, dude? And move on to Matsumoto. Really, I thought, like you said, I thought it was really good performance. But what really stood out to me is just how tough the dude is. The guy was. His own mom was giving up on him, saying he shouldn't be fighting Rob Font, and the dude was toughening up. Very well-rounded, young, got some takedowns. He was undefeated up to this point. Got to me, this doesn't, like you said, it builds a stock up. I think it's going to build his confidence too. He was that close. If he checks that many decisions, he's going to see more people score for him than didn't. It was right there. I like this guy. I like this guy a lot. let's match make fun for a second, because I think you're higher on him than I am. Like, again, it was a good performance, even though I thought he lost. It was a good performance. Like, he definitely some things I liked. I'm still worried about his takedown defense, but I like his ability to get back up. Like, before, he played jiu-jitsu a little bit too much. His output was a lot better, which is really weird going to TriStar to have better output, but um I'm letting him be the test again for a guy who, and this guy's not young, but a guy who's kind of newer to get a chance to kind of see if he can get in the rankings. You mentioned him earlier. I'm giving him Marcus McGee.
I like that just fine. And I like it because off the top of my head, I'm not sure whether I'd pick McGee to just club and sub him in 90 seconds or for him to get a serious boxing lesson and
Sure.
for his face to be a mess at the end of it. I'm fine with that. I didn't wander very far afield. I just gave him Ricky Simon, a couple of long-time top 10 guys who seem to be in free fall and redeem themselves, to some extent tonight. I just figured I'd throw those two guys in against each other.
All right. Before that, he was a breakout star last year. He just continues to roll again. Gene Silva took on Melsig Bagdasaryan. Silva winning by first round TKO. Like, dude, this dude is impressing me more and more every time I see him fight. I mean, to knock out Bagdasaryan, a decorated kickboxer, to me was so freaking impressive. The dude's fast. He's explosive. He's got power. He's accurate. He's with a red hot team. Dude, I'm so sold. I'm all in. 4-0 in the UFC, 4 stoppages. Like, how far can this guy go? Are you with me? Are you completely sold or no?
I'm completely sold to the extent that I feel that he is a top 10 talent right now. Like, I feel as though he could. Agree. And if Ilia Topuria really is relinquishing his belt and walking away from 145 for a while, like Silva, there's nobody that jumps out to me as like much more likely than Gene Silva to be champ a year from now.
Okay. Yeah, I'd have to. I wasn't prepared to talk about that. I have to look at the division.
Well, I'm looking at. I'm like,
it's not out of the realm of possibility he wins.
And the guys that are more proven at the title level are all well into the later stages of their career. Talking about like the Holloway, Volkanovski, Ortega, like Silva with his age, the kind of momentum he has. Yeah, like I don't favor anybody against Ilia Topuria. He might be the most dominant fighter in the sport right now, but if you pull him out of the equation, Gene Silva is in that pool of 5 or 6 names that I'd say are most likely to be champ a year from now.
Yeah,
I believe.
Dude,
Luke Wilson, after being absent from the Shillan and Duffy show for as long as Henry Cejudo was absent from fighting, he's back. No. Welcome, Luke. No, not quite that long.
You know what was even better than the knockout by Gene Silva was the call out. Not many guys who actually have a chance of getting this fight is calling fights for Bryce Mitchell. Gene Silva called it. Like, this guy is already beloved, and then he calls out the guy that seems, not everyone on Twitter, but a big majority of people on MMA Twitter want to see get killed. He calls out Bryce Mitchell. I'm giving it to him.
That's the name I have down. If the fighters make a plausible and intriguing matchup for themselves, who am I to say no? It's why the UFC is so desperate for them to call people out. I'm here for it. And it would be a worthwhile fight to watch. Like, I have the feeling that, like off the cuff, I'm like, okay, that doesn't go well for Mitchell. He ends up and his face is as flat as he thinks the earth is. But you never know, and I haven't done any tape study yet. I like it as a matchup.
Yeah, I mean, say what you want about Bryce Mitchell. The guy's freaking good fight. He can scrap. Yeah, I don't know if it's people call him Lord Silva and all that. I hope Bryce Mitchell tweeted what Marcus Mustard. I don't know if Marcus Mustard is trolling us, or did Bryce Mitchell really tweet? There's only one Lord. That's awesome. That's funny. Let's move on. Before that, Alonzo Menafield took on Julius Walker. Alonzo Menafield winning unanimous decision. What was that? I'm sorry, that was a split decision, right?
It was a
Yeah,
splitter.
it was a split. We'll get to that later. We'll get to that in a second.
Uh,
I scored it for Walker. I scored a 29-28 for Walker. Have no issue with scoring it for Manfield. It really comes down to volume, Walker's volume, and like positional grappling. I'd say like he really get takedowns versus Manfield's power. Walker did react. Walker, I thought was doing more work, but he wasn't reacting to punches as well. So I think it was a really, really close fight. How did you score it?
I did score it for Manfield. I gave him rounds 2 and 3,
Okay.
but I don't have a problem with giving Walker, like, say, rounds 1 and 2. Like I don't have I don't have an issue with that. And just like we mentioned that the co-main event could have used 2 more rounds, this one could have used 1 fewer round as these guys started to get tired. Like this.
Yeah, to their credit though, they were exhausted early and still like had a pretty entertaining. I mean, they were tired, but they were still swinging for the fences, even though they were completely tired.
Yeah, it's a good fight. You know, descended into a little bit of slop. It's not a fight that made me feel great about either of their chances against guys up the ladder from them. But if they just turn, well, Manfield has been, but you know, if Walker turns into another one of those 205ers that can just be in entertaining slobber knockers a couple times a year, hey, there's room for him.
Yeah. So I did. So I just want to. While I believe I was on the correct side of the. So two fights that I scored that went split decisions. I was on the wrong side of the scoring. But MMA Decision says I was on the right side for the Gene Matsumoto. I was on the wrong side according to MMA Decisions. It was 10-1 for Manfield. I was the only person. I did my my best Drake rig, since I was the only person to score the fight for Julius Walker, UFC newcomer. And before that, oh no, that was the first fight to kick off the main card. Sorry, let's go to the prelims. I'm sorry. Iwan Kutalaba took on Ibo Aslan. Kutalaba winning by first round sub. I'll say this: wrestling Kutalaba is a tough guy. When he wrestles, he's not bad.
And I will always give credit to our man Devin Tejada. Dev Goes Fishing for this observation. 205 is the low fight IQ division. Like it's more skilled than heavyweight, it's more athletic than heavyweight, but this is the division where from the top to the bottom, you just get wild people with no semblance of game planning, no semblance of appropriate defense. Like, as awesome as he is, only at 205 pounds is Yuri Prohaska a former champ and multiple time title contender. A guy like that insane just doesn't string together enough wins to get into title contention in basically any other division. Iwan Kutalaba is the perfect example of that. Like, from moment to moment in a fight, like, his IQ will just kind of switch on and off like a plug that's like coming out of its socket in the wall. To say nothing of his post-fight interview, where he like turned from the Hulk to like Bruce Banner repeatedly. Like, what?
I loved it.
He's exhausting. He's a lot, dude.
Yeah, he is. This was his first submission win in the UFC, first in 10 years total. I mean, some of this obviously has to do with Aslan. Aslan's overthrowing punches, like setting up takedowns for Kutalaba. And I think the second time he got him down, you could see the life kind of get sucked out of Aslan. So not a good night for former undefeated, no longer that case. So before we get to the next fight, we got to introduce you to a new segment, Ben, requested by the listeners. I've had a lot of listeners in the past reach out to me and say that when we go off the rails a little bit and talk about ourselves, some people hate that. A lot of people enjoy that. So we have a new segment called, I don't know the hosts. I'm going to give you 30 seconds. This is a random question I got off the internet. I'm going to let you answer this and then go right back to the fights. Ben, what is your favorite, like, family? It could be a board game or a family card game or something. What is your favorite one? And we'll throw it in the chat, and so we get to know the listeners too. Tell us what your favorite board game is.
When I was young, like up through high school, up through my 20s, I played a lot of chess. But once you get to kind of our age,
You did, nerd.
but once you get to our age, like there's an excluded middle because people who still play at my age, like they're really, really good. I can't play with those guys, so I'm stuck either. I can play with somebody that doesn't know how to play at all, or someone like former Sherdog staffer Lev Pisarski who would just like push my shit in for me. Uh, I used to love Trivial Pursuit, but nobody will play with me.
Yeah, you seem
I
like
mean,
you'd be really good at that.
it's not technically a board game, but I get together like via video chat once a week and play Dungeons and Dragons with two of my brothers and two of my kids. Dude,
Dude, you are
I'm as
such a
nerdy
nerd.
as I am as nerdy as they come, dude.
If,
Absolutely.
if I haven't, if I didn't meet your kids, I would have thought you were a virgin. like,
they're all adopted.
Chess,
I was like, give me ones that look like me, make them plausible. You know, like.
I'll throw out some. Dev says Uno. Bass is a big chess guy too. Brian Conley is Uno. Pope likes Life. Elvin Granada of Risk.
Risk. I love Risk.
Matthew back saying Keith, I can see Keith loving Twister. I'm listen, I'll tell you right now, I'm freaking good at categories. You ever play categories?
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever lost. I crush everybody at categories. That if we're playing cards, it's gotta be high low jack. I'll freaking run the table at high low jack. But all right, let's move on. So that's one with another one. Everyone says strip shoots and ladder. Okay. Let's move on. Before that, on paper, the one of the fights I got wrong, the closest one in the betting line, is one of those fights where you just 30 seconds in, I go, oh, I got this fight. I got this fight wrong. Andre Fely took on Melquizel Costa. Costa winning by first round submission. I mean, Costa, dude, this guy's underrated. I mean, dude's well rounded. To get a guillotine when you got taken down, you're in a close guard, not like catching it while you're coming down, but you're on the mat to reach over the head and catch it. Like that never happens.
Nope.
This guy's submission game is good.
His submission game is good. And even though, I mean, he's always had about as many submission wins as knockout wins, at the UFC level, he seemed to be panning out into kind of a featherweight slugger. So, and I'm so glad you brought this up because a lot of guillotines are attempted, a lot of guillotines are landed, but usually when someone tries for a guillotine, the action is only going one way. Like it's going to slip off more and more and more. And it's, can the choked guy pop his head out or, you know, get his body out to the side before the choking guy can tighten it up? To see Costa kind of sit up, throw his arm over and reestablish the position. It's the kind of thing you see in the gym all the time and almost never see in a live fire situation. Really impressive stuff from Melquizel Costa.
Yeah, I mean, the guy, I mean, he doesn't have, you know, he's on a 2-fight winning streak, but I mean, he lost to Steve Garcia, which isn't bad. He lost to Thiago Moises, but I mean, some of the guys, I mean, Andre Fila is a good, no matter what, still a good win. I mean, this guy, I don't know. I'm starting to believe in Costa. Before that, we had Mansour Abdul Malik taking on Nick Klein. Abdul Malik win by second round TKO. I will say this about Klein: he isn't good, and his striking, especially his boxing, is really poor. His boxing defense, he just like keeps dipping. He like almost pulls away. He looks like a nerdy kid who's getting bullied in like a bathroom and he doesn't know what to do. So he just kind of like pulls away to try to avoid strikes. Yeah. But what I will say about him is he knows his best avenue of victory to try to get the fight to the ground, and he will continually go for that. And he's going to beat better guys who have bad game plans. Like he's not good, but he's going to win fights that he should.
Mansour Abdul Malik came alarmingly close to taking his first L tonight against a guy that I don't know this for a fact. I certainly don't wish Nick Klein poorly. Like hell, he put on a hell of a performance tonight, but I would guess that 12 months from now, maybe 18 months from now, Mansour Abdul Malik is knocking on the outskirts of the top 15. Nick Klein is out of the UFC, and we're like, dude, you remember when Klein almost just cold cocked Abdul Malik with his wild spinning elbow. Like if those guys fought 100 times, like I like this because Abdul Malik looks like an 8-0 fighter that does have some notes to take back to the gym.
Sure.
He's still undefeated. He has some notes, like watch your guy on the break, keep your guard up. But at the same time, he didn't panic. He did a great job not taking any more punishment for 30 seconds after eating that elbow. Like he tried wrestling, he tried clinching. He just kind of stuck to the guy, and Klein was too busy not getting thrown on the ground and mounted to really land any follow-up shots. Like to the point that the UFC booth was even like, Klein's got to keep hitting him somehow, hitting him with something. Don't let him recover. Abdul Malik was recovering.
Michael Bigsman thinks he's going to be a future champion. So, he's all in. I'll say this. What I liked about Abdul offensively, like he was doing absolutely nothing. Like he was so much more skilled than Klein. He's doing nothing. And then finally he's like, oh yeah, I'm just way better than this guy. And like he's just like, he looked like like an older brother who kept getting punched by his younger brother. And finally was like, all right, enough of this shit. And just like chucked him across the room. Yeah. And then as soon as he did anything, the fight was over. Like he threw him to the ground and ground upon him for like 20 seconds. The fight was over. And I was like, yeah, dude, why don't you just do that right away, man? It would have been a lot shorter day for you. But anyways, he's definitely a guy that's going up. I'm not ready to crown him a champion. There was a guy not too long ago that people thought was going to be a future UFC champion, and that was Javid Basharat. But now he's dropped 2 fights in a row as Ricky Simone in front of his hometown crowd, which is always nice. He got a big walk-off, crushing knockout. I mean, I'm not going to get excited about Rick Simone. I mean, he's always been a good fighter. He's headlined a UFC card before. He's always been a tough out, but he ended a losing streak. To me, I think this is going to be like 3 years. Like, oh man, when Ricky Simone had that nice moment, he didn't really have any left. That's what I think this is.
Yeah, this could turn into Vanderlei knocking out Keith Jardine. This could turn into Jens Pulver choking out Cub Swanson.
Yeah,
this could be like the last
Uriah Faber waiting
Cold
against
Ricky Simone. Yeah.
Like Tito Ortiz against Ryan Bader.
Oh, poor Ryan Bader, just the goodest dude, and he
is a good dude.
He is, and like it had been so long that I had forgotten about the whole Gravedigger routine.
Yeah,
like it had been so long since Tito won a fight that I had forgotten that he did the Gravedigger when he did that. Wow. Yeah.
But
that was, it won't be the knockout of the year, but it's about as knocked out as somebody has been this year.
If it was a main event, it was a title fight. It was, replace these 2 guys with, they just announced Bilal Muhammad and Jack Della Maddalena. Jack Della Maddalena lays Muhammad out like that. It's knockout of the year. So, really,
this would be almost closer to like Muhammad not like laying out.
But you get the point. Like if it was a main event, it would be knockout of the year.
If it wasn't on the prelims in the middle of like 7 straight finishes, yeah.
Basharat, he was doing well. He was finding his range. He was starting he had to stop takedowns, which I thought was a really smart strategy for Simone early. But once he started finding his range, he was hitting him with jabs and he was catching him coming in. He landed a knee as he was coming in. I'm like, man, this is going to be really, really, nice performance from him. And then next minute, because I'm telling you, he was about to take over, and then he was not dead.
And because of that, like again, as sensational a finish as it was, I hesitate to proclaim Ricky Simone back, which you kind of already said.
Sure.
Like shoot a box Diego Lima, Ricky Simone is not going to be a thing. Like, we're, motivated BJ Penn, old new Vitor, Chuck with that look in his eye, Ricky Simone with the peroxide bleached hair. He's not going to join that. Like he had a great performance, but I'm also not shoveling dirt onto Basharat just yet. He's so young and he's so talented that, maybe we find out that something snapped inside and he's just never the same guy competitively. But at the same time, 3 years from now, we could be saying, remember when he like lost those back-to-back fights and had that weird no contest with Victor Henry, you know, and then he went and won his next 8 fights. Like, yeah, like Basharat could still easily be a future contender. Like I'm not off the train at all.
I before we move on, I do want to tell my man Evan Granado, do not leave before the end of the show because you are definitely leading the pack for my listener of the night after your chess reference, talking about D'Angelo playing chess. I know exactly what that reference means. I'm not gonna tell anybody else what that means. You guys have to figure that out. But that was a really good reference, my man. So if people can't figure it out, I'll put it at the end. That was a nice job. I love that he knew that I knew what that reference was going to be. So nice job.
Oh yeah, that is one type of
wait a minute.
Pop culture reference that you can make, and that is like it's going to score you points with Keith.
Hold on a second. Did I give it to the wrong person? I'm sorry.
No.
It was the right person. Okay. All right. So no, I didn't. No, I gave it to the wrong person. No, it was no, it was I said Evan Granado. No, I looked at that was the person who commented right before. No, it's oh my, I'm really gonna butcher this one. Guernica 84.
Guernica 84.
Guernica 84. Oh, so I apologize. So Guernica 84. I looked right above you when I read that comment. So yeah, really nice job, my man. I'm gonna put you on the spot. Antoine Willis asked us a question. He said, "Who would you guys like Mansour to fight next? He's so young. He's 27. Do you have anybody? Can you think of someone off the top of your head?"
I just give him, just give him like another up and comer that's winning most but not all of his fights. Like who's the guy right here from Texas? He trains with a friend of mine. He's from Shiner. He trains over at War MMA, and I can't remember his name right now. Hell, give him Cedric Dumas.
Yeah, I'm giving him like I'm slow rolling him. I'm giving him a veteran, but like nobody good, like a Phil Hollis or I don't know, Cody Brundage or
Zach Reese is who I.
Zach Reese. There you go. Zach Reese is perfect. That's exactly who I give it to.
Zach Reese looks kind of like Nick Klein, but is actually good. Like there you go.
Speaking of nice guys, Austin Vanderford took on Nikolai Veretennikov. Vanderford winning by second round TKO. Before we get to the fun stuff, I like Vanderford. I think he's a good addition to the UFC.
Yes.
He's not going to be a champion. He's too one-dimensional. But, I mean, he had a lot of success in the UFC. But what I like about him is he has one avenue of where he could win a fight. And if he gets that fight there, he's a good grappler, man. He takes the fight down. He subs a lot of guys. Yeah, really good.
If you have one obvious route to victory, but you always fight in such a way as to maximize your chance of winning with that one route, you can make a lot of noise. And I've always kind of enjoyed specialists. You know, like I'm fine. Like I have a whole franchise column about like one trick ponies of MMA history. Yeah. Like half the people in the Hall are fucking awesome. You know, like they're
sure.
Like I loved it when Ryan Hall was like all of a sudden like beating top 15 fighters out of nowhere in like 2019. Vanderford, he's a good wrestler, an excellent top position grappler, mean ground and pound, and puts himself in the best position to use those traits to win a fight whenever he can. He's low key not a dude I would want sitting on my chest punching me.
Yeah. Before we get into the Vanderford versus Verna I can't even say his name. Nikolai beef.
I wouldn't spend too much time learning to pronounce his name. He'll be back here in Texas fighting for Fury pretty soon.
I got to answer one of the toughest questions ever asked on the show. I know Ben's answer, but do you prefer The Sopranos or The Wire? To me, The Sopranos is like a top 5 show all time. I love it. Incredible. But to me, Wire's number 1. It is the best show ever made. I'm all in on The Wire. So give me The Wire.
I love The Sopranos. I am still in season 1 of The Wire. I
Yeah,
need
you're
to finish
crazy.
it before Keith gets down here in August,
You're
or like
crazy.
it's going to be on site and he's going to like shoot a double leg and stick me in the Gulf of America and drown me. So, yeah.
Speaking of, I see. I have so many like because you haven't watched it. I have so many Wire references I want to make about Nikolai hitting Vanderford in the back, so I can't even make him. Um, he took him out like snot boogie, so I can do that because you got to the first first. You named the boy Snot. Vanderford. It's so weird that the guy go up to like pushed him because I made a joke about Vanderford being a nice guy. I've met a lot of guys. Vanderford is. I spent a lot of time because he was in Bellator. Where he gets on. He is one of the nicest people you'll meet. He calls you by your first name. He generally like wants to like know who you are and take questions. You're like, I think he met me once. The next time I was there, he was, oh hey Keith, how are you? And Paige is actually super cool. Like the times I met her, I would say Vanderford's like he's like the Bo Nickel of nice guys. He's
So,
just
Olympic level nice guy, just maybe not the timing didn't work out right.
no, I meant like undefeated when it comes to nice
Oh,
guys.
oh, okay. It's like he might have been the second nicest guy in the world that year. Just
Yeah, Nikolai. I mean, the push was the best strike he landed all night.
yeah. It'll be interesting to see whether he gets the Paul Daly treatment.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad, but yeah.
It wasn't. Neither was Daly's.
Well, no, yeah, but I mean, it depends on who does it. Like Habib can jump in the crowd and fight everybody, and it's cool. So, um, uh, Evan Granada said Twin Peaks is better than Wire. Okay, have you said? I've
Dude, any show where at the end, like it turns out that the entire storyline of the show was a dream,
Oh,
you got to turn that greater than sign the other way. Like,
I guess I don't have to watch it. Spoiler alert, I guess. Yeah,
Guernica, it's pretty funny considering that like both McNulty and Idris Elba are British. Like the two leads in The Wire are both British, but they do such a good Baltimore accent that I'm from Maryland originally. I could understand them just fine. I just couldn't get into it. I need to try it again.
No, you're crazy. It's the best TV show, anyways. Yeah, Nikolai. There's a good chance he's no longer in the UFC, and worse, after pushing Austin Vanderford, like I hope Paige Van Zandt doesn't like cancel his only his fan subscription now after that.
She should have power slapped him.
Yeah, there you go. Before that, Nursultan Ruzabayev took on Eric McConico, winning by second round TKO. I said this about McConico before he fought in the UFC. I don't know if you guys do any tape studying this guy. He right place, right time kind of guy. He does not look like UFC level to me. And this is what you do if you're a guy like Ruzabayev against someone who's not UFC level.
There were what happened to this card? Because again, I completely unplugged last week. Like, did a bunch of fights get changed and a bunch of people have to step up on short notice? Because I feel like the UFC signed 50 people, 30 of whom I've never watched tape on in the week I was gone. And when they stuck McConico out there, I'm like, I was like, did they just like put Khalil Roundtree in the sauna for a couple hours and try to run him out as like a new fighter?
Pretty good. Yeah. He does look like Khalil Roundtree's like
skinny
smaller,
Khalil,
smaller brother. Yeah. That's actually.
But yeah, Ruzaboyev.
Yeah, there was a bunch of fights that fell out. If I feel bad to the people, I mean, it ended up being a really good card other than the main event. There was so many fights dropped out. I mean, obviously the Dominic Cruz fight fell apart. Then they had Maciej Sasson was fighting on this one. That fight got scrapped. Curtis Blades was removed from that fight. Edson Barbosa was fighting Stephen Pierce. There's like one or two other fights that fell through. It was just like cheap. Like everything was falling off this card. I feel bad. And I know the ticket prices ain't cheap in Seattle. But go back to that. I mean, you could see McConnell had a little bit of UFC jitters, and then did absolutely nothing in the first round. And then when he did, he got absolutely destroyed. So, yeah, I mean, I have nothing else to say about this fight. You have anything else to say?
Nope.
And to start off the card, Modestas Bukakas took on Rafael Cerqueira, winning by first round TKO. I mean, really nasty KO. I mean, Dude was knocked out on his feet multiple times before he went to the ground. Baukus is now 4-1 since returning to the UFC, his second stint.
And
are you believing, Ben?
I have no choice but to believe the evidence of my senses, because in my mind, he's still like 2-5 in the UFC, and this kind of lanky kickboxer who couldn't keep the 205-pound bulls off him to get the kickboxing game going. All of a sudden, he can, and I don't know if it's because he's better or they're matching him up against worse people. But folks, if you're used to our previews and you hear Keith say, on a 12-fight card, maybe say it about 7 or 8 of the 24 fighters, he doesn't move his head enough. He backs straight up on the center line. He tries to slip punches by just leaning straight back. And you're like, why does this matter? Watch Rafael Cerqueira get knocked out. I mean, watch each time he gets rocked, but especially watch the end where he's just stuck against the fence, head straight up the middle, and Baukus just does a heavy bag routine on him.
Yeah, like the first 2 or 3 minutes, it's like the kids when they're swinging at a pinata and they can't find it. But when you finally line it up and you actually hit it, then you can hit it over and over again. That's what it seemed like. So,
yeah,
dude, my man, Granatica 84 is absolutely killing me with the references. Got those yellow tops, WMDs. Nobody else gets those references, but nice job, my man. He's killing it. All right, let's get to the fun stuff. We get the Bulls, the Bears, we get the cut list, we have the awards, we have the grade, the do seriously. Ben, I'll let you pick. Which one do you want to do first?
I mean, do we want to talk about the awards real quick?
Yeah, let's do the awards.
All right. We have a fight of the night. We have 2 performances of the night. If you're watching this, you probably already know who won because you're either following Twitter or you're watching the post-fight presser. So don't guess. Just tell us if you agree with the awards, and if not, whom you would have given the awards to. At a glance, I'm definitely good with I'm good with the fight of the night.
No-brainer. Fight of the night, no-brainer. Rob Font, Gene Matsumoto has to be fight of the night.
I'd be fine with that.
Okay.
And the
performances will be tough. There was a lot of knockouts, a lot of submissions.
This is a night that I might have just skipped the fight of the night thing and just given awards to all the finishers.
Yeah, that fight of the night was so banging though.
Well, according to you, according to Hunter Campbell, maybe not.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe they did not give that fight of the night. Ricky Simone for performance tonight. Gene Silva, Ricky Simone. I would go for performance. Font, Matsumoto. What would you go before you tell us who won?
Like Ricky Simone is the most obvious performance bonus winner for me. And honestly, I understand that, why Gene Silva is appealing, but man, Melquizael Costa's what he actually did was more impressive to me.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. That's actually really good.
So
yeah, I think you convinced me on that one.
Yeah, because your actual winner, your performances of the night go to Gene Silva for his protracted burial of Melsik Baghdasaryan, and Ricky Simone for doing reenacting the second Gulf War in terms of what an American did to an Afghanistani, like just a few minutes. But the fight of the night winner was Alonzo Manfield versus Julius Walker.
Oh, no. That's fucking stupid.
It was I don't even know if it was the second best fight of the night, honestly.
No. I mean, they were big guys throwing haymakers. They were tired, but I mean, that's. I mean, the last 20 seconds of Font Matsumoto alone is better than that entire fight. Yeah, that's bad. All right, let's go to the cut list. Now you got me in a bad mood. But I got you know what? How many do you have for the cut list?
I have one. I have one for the cut list.
Okay, so the way the cut list works, if both me and Ben have the same people on our cut list, we allow the UFC to get rid of them. I have 2 on the cut list, so you are saving somebody from getting tough.
I might be saving somebody.
I'm going to guess who you're saving. Who, for my list, you guess, I think you're saving Rafael Squa. I was cutting him. He's 0-2 in the UFC, both by first round TKOs. I was getting rid of him. But because he's a big man, you're keeping him.
That is exactly correct.
Okay. And we're both cutting Nikolai. Say his last name for me.
Veretennikov. I've had plenty of practice because almost his entire regional career took place here in Texas. He won the Fury welterweight title at least once. So yeah, I imagine I'll be seeing him around in a couple months.
Yeah, when I think of Texas, I think of a guy with the name of Nikolai
Veretennikov. Yeah, for sure. Like that screams Dallas. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let's move to the dude seriously. You want to go first?
Why don't you go first? I mean, I had one.
Okay.
Let me just grab my notes here.
All right. My first dude seriously. Michael Bisping asking Rusbayev a question. Him speaking some foreign. I don't know what country. Where is he from again?
He is from Uzbekistan, I believe.
Yeah, he's speaking Uzbekistani or whatever. I don't know.
Well,
and then
probably Russian, but yeah.
Yeah, and then Bisping just walks away. We never get a translation. Like, dude, seriously, he ranted for like 30 seconds. Bisping just walked away. he's like, yeah, and then he's like, ladies and gentlemen, no sit down. Who's a buy off? Like, never gave us what he said. Like, dude, seriously. What's his name? What's the lead play-by-play guy's name? Not
Brendan Fitzgerald.
Yeah, Fitzgerald goes claiming that Austin Vanderford got out of his Bellator contract to come to the UFC. No, he did not. He fought in the LFA. Like, dude, seriously, stop. Like, that's not what happened. They just completely ignored that. He was out of Bellator 2 years ago. Like, dude, seriously. How about, I'll give you another they're all Bisping ones. Bisping again. Bisping is interviewing Vanderford. He goes on and on about being in the UFC, this and that. But dude, seriously, you didn't even ask him about getting pushed after the fight? Like, dude, seriously?
That was weird.
He completely ignored that part. Dudes, I'm gonna go back to the commentators again. This time I'm going to the booth. Michael Chiesa, dude, seriously? Like, he got this sore throat going on. They're like, dude, seriously, get a lozenge.
Knowing him, I guarantee he was screaming on a dead mic. I mean, he's from Washington State. We're talking about a guy that the night that his teammate Juliana Pena won the UFC title, he got drunk and face planted on the cage apron and had to be taken to the hospital to get stitched up. I guarantee you he was screaming at some shit that happened. And just his voice, because his voice was fine during the prelims, and then it was gone during the main card.
It was absolutely shot. It was like, come on, get a cough drop, something, dude. Seriously,
it was so funny.
And you know what? I'm gonna save one of my dudes seriously for later. Go ahead, Ben.
I can't remember, dude. I seriously need to write down my dude seriously because I thought of okay. I know that foreign fighters' nicknames don't always carry over when translated into English. Lots of fighters from Kazakhstan and from the central steppes of Eurasia will call themselves Nomad or something. And we hear Nomad, it doesn't mean anything. To them, it means the Mongol hordes riding across the plains. Someone needs to tell Ibo Aslan that calling himself the last Ottoman just makes Americans think of a used furniture store. Somebody help this man. Yeah. And it doesn't help that he basically ended the fight with Iwan Kudalaba kicking back with his feet up on him. So yeah, dude, seriously, somebody help that man.
Let's get to the Bulls and the Bears. The Bulls and Bears is a stock market reference. You want to be on the Bulls list. You do not want to be in the Bears list. We do it hockey style, 3, 2, 1. You mind if I go first?
Go for it.
All right, let's go. Let's go positive. Let's go Bulls.
Yep.
My number 3. I'm going to go with the prelims. 7 fights, 7 stoppages. Nothing even hit the third round. Absolute chaos. Really up to the co-main event was an all-time banger. Even the fights that went to decision were really fun. The prelims. My number 2, Anthony Hernandez, 7 wins in a row now. I mean, he's knocking on the door of fighting top 5 guys. He should, from this point on, every one of his fights, in the near future, should be main event fights. And my number 1, this just his continued tear that he's going on. 4-0 in the UFC, 4 stoppages, called out Bryce Mitchell. To me, it's Gene Silva. Like, this guy's just he's freaking tearing it up. He's had as good of a year in the UFC as anybody I can remember. Ben, go ahead.
I agree with all yours, so I won't pile 3 more on top of that, but I will throw out there Mansour Abdul Malik. Yeah, he got tagged. He was in a bunch of trouble, but he escaped with the W, and I don't know that I'm as high on him as, say, Bisping is, but I think he's a very interesting talent to have around, and if he pans out into a great fighter, this fight will turn into his like Khabib versus Gleison Tebow fight, that people barely remember back in the dark ages of his early career. But anytime that you can have a learning experience like he obviously did without losing the O, that's good news. I'll throw out Rob Font. Even if you don't think he deserved to win this fight, he has looked better and more competitive. And this is someone that the wheels had not completely fallen off the wagon, but I thought they were falling off. If we had a year-end show last year, I would have predicted with confidence that Rob Font would be out of the UFC by the end of 2025. And even if he fights twice more this year and loses both, that might not happen now. Like, the guy has regained relevance. That's tough to do at his age, in his division, even in the post-USADA era. Good on Rob Font.
Before we get to the Bears, I will answer one last question from one more wire reference for my man Graninico, who's my favorite character. I won't tell you my favorite character, but that's all I'll say. Let's go to the Bears. The Bears you do not want to be in the list. Ben, I'll let you kick it off.
All right. Can I throw one thing out real quick?
Sure.
Pursuant to what you just said, what was he, like Senator Clay, or like I forget his actual, but yeah, thank you. Like, I remember once early on when we started doing our show, we were previewing an Andrea Lee fight, and we were talking about how she is an attractive, marketable woman. If she kept winning, stardom is there for the taking. And I said, dude, if you ever make it to Texas, women that look like Andrea Lee are basically the state flower. And then, you came out to like Dallas Fort Worth. You're like, oh it's right.
God, I love Fort Worth, Texas.
I grew up in Maryland, and like black dudes of roughly that age bracket that say shit exactly like that.
I'm stepping on this one. Hold on a second, man. Finish what you. All right, so Ben got canceled. All right, you got canceled.
Yeah, Ben got. Like, just I mean, and I haven't even gotten to the seasons where he like is a character, but like just having seen like the memes and seen the clips, I'm like, oh, I met that dude 700 times growing up, halfway between DC and Baltimore. Yeah. Downtown Clay Davis. There you go.
There you go.
Like, how weird is it that like TJ Brown called himself downtown? Is he from like Arkansas? Like, what downtown is there even in Arkansas? Anyway.
Rock. I don't know. I don't know. Do you have any more Bears?
No, I just threw out the 2.
All right. My number 3, I mean, Henry Cejudo. It sucked. He's still competitive, but I mean, since he's returned from the UFC, he's now 0-3. I do think there's a chance. There's not many times fights get overturned. This one you could actually argue was overturned. There was some really crazy, or it might even be worse for him. It might get changed to a DKO, but not good for Henry Cejudo. My number 2, Javid Basharat. I mean, lost back-to-back fights. He had a no contest before that. It's been 2 years since he's won a fight. And my number one bear, this is a guy we've been you've been leading the argument for this. I'm going to jump on it. Bruce Buffer. I mean, this guy, dude, it's time to retire. He's terrible at his job. He is absolutely terrible. He had 2 decisions tonight. He messed up both of them. One he never even announced was a split decision. One point he was like 29, 28. It's like, how many times have you said 29, 28 in your career? You couldn't figure out it's 29, 28. Like, this guy's I tweeted at somebody and I said, like, there's I believe there's thousands of people that could take his job right now with no training. Could walk in a cage, get ready to give him a card, and can do it. Every game show host in America can do it. Anybody who doesn't have a speech impediment could do his job. You could have found 100 people in Seattle today that you could have just been like, "Hey, you like MMA? Like, you want to do Bruce Buffer's job?"
Oh,
and they can do
any morning radio DJ.
Any morning radio. Like,
yeah.
Honestly, like, you could do that job in a heartbeat. Like, anybody could take his job. He's the easiest job in He fucking sucks at his job. Like, it's someone I tweeted someone like, "Dude, what are you talking about? He's the best in the business." Like, no, he has a little catchphrase, big fucking deal. Like, it's old. Like, yeah, when you're there in attendance, you want to say it's live once, or it's time. You know, we are live, and then it's time later on. Like, cool, but like, the guy sucks at his job.
Yeah,
he butchers who's like, come on, dude. And then even
MMA,
when he does call it right, when he calls out to like 29, 28, 20, he'll word it wrong. Like, he'll never have like the suspenseful one be the last one of the scorecard. So you build suspense. Like, he's just terrible. You have the fucking you really work once. Oh, not even once a week, but add up the amount of time he works. Is it a half hour? Is it an hour? Is it, if you have all the minutes, is it 45 minutes or 40? Well, he works a week. You should crush those 45 minutes. It should be the easiest thing ever. You should be able to pronounce everybody. Listen, I always say, people will be like, "Oh, kid, you don't pronounce people." That's not my fucking full-time job. Give me a break.
Yeah, here's the thing. And MMA Racks, I think this is your first time joining us. Welcome to the chat. Like, we hope you stick around. Understand that
he's replaceable. What are you talking about?
Well, this is an ongoing thing as well. Like, he basically has 2 jobs: pronounce names right and read results right off the card. It's almost refreshing that he gave equal neglect to both sides of his job, because normally it's just the pronunciation that's like, and yeah, it's 45 minutes of work a week. Like, how many times has he had to say Derek Cleary's name over the last 15 years and still doesn't get it right? How many times has he introduced Israel Adesanya and still can't pronounce the name of his hometown? Like, it's that little concern with getting better at your job is just like, it's a sign of contempt for you.
Oh,
the
God,
people that
like witness
you work. Yeah.
He's just checked out as it comes. He cares about having some flashy suit that night. That's the only thing he cares about.
Yeah. Well, if he has to cover up his 6-pack implants with something, it better be a pretty sweet suit.
So get rid of Buff. Anyways, what is your scorecard? Like, the scorecards, I was well on my way to an A. I'm gonna give it like a B minus. The main event pulled it so down for me.
Yeah, it's what leaves that taste in your mouth. After the Kudalaba Aslan fight, I was like, this is an A+ so far. It's just eye-popping finish after eye-popping finish. I'd say a B minus. Like, the main event, like, it really sucked that it ended that way, but you know, the rest of the card was still pretty good.
All right, so the hardest question of the night is always listener night. I've already gave my listener night. He got me off track many times. My man, with all the wanted me to talk about The Wire, which I could talk about all the time.
Guernica 84.
Guernica 84. Ben, who is your listener of the night?
It's unanimous tonight, because I came on to the show all ready to kill or be killed for Jason Herzog's honor, and he actually came with some well-considered arguments that kind of had me thinking it over more in real time, like at the same time that you and I are talking about this. So yeah, for bringing the serious as well as the comedic, Guernica 84 is my listener of the night as well.
Yeah, which is why he's not allowed to be in the chat anymore. Because the one thing, if you want to stick around and fit into this community, you can't have well thought out like thoughts.
Yeah.
You can't really have clear thought out thoughts in this community. So, obviously, just kidding. So there you guys have it. We have done UFC Seattle as deep as anybody can do it. We'll be back for a preview show. If you haven't checked out the preview show, we believe it's the most in-depth preview show in the world. This week, we're UFC Cop versus Almabayev.
UFC Vegas 103. Is that what we're calling this one? I think something like that.
Sure.
I mean, I'm not saying that this is one of the thinner cards on paper of the year, but the co-main event is Cody Brundage and Julian Marquez.
There you go.
Like, there should not be a loser goes home matchup between unranked fighters in the co-main event of any UFC card.
Yeah. So, yeah, it is very thin, but we'll still talk about it for well over 2 hours. So make sure you tune into that. We'll be back a week from now. We'll be recapping all that. So until then, thank you guys for listening. If you're watching this afterwards, hit like, put a comment, do all that good stuff, and we'll see you guys next time.